Thanks for staying with us. Time now for African News with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, Germany hands down its first conviction of the Rwandan genocide. Former town mayor Onesphore Rambukombe is jailed for 14 years for ordering a church massacre. Also, in Guinea-Conakry, frustration over a week without electricity boils over into fatal clashes. At least 2 are killed in confrontations between protesters and police. And as African peacekeepers in Central African Republic call for the UN to step up its involvement in the conflict, we meet one victim of the looting on chaos in Bangui. Luckily, for artist Samuel Fosso, all was not lost. First up, though, a Rwandan former town mayor has been sentenced to 14 years in jail for his role in the massacre of at least 400 Tutsis in a church in his homeland during the 1994 genocide. The judgment against Onesphore Rambukombe was handed down by a German court on Tuesday, who'd found that he'd ordered the attack in the town of Kiziguru and later organised the dumping of bodies. Well, France 24's Jessica Saltz in Berlin. She tells us more about Germany's first case heard and convicted made in connection to the genocide.
This is certainly a significant step for Germany. This is the first perpetrator of the Rwandan genocide to be put on trial in Germany. Onesphore Rambukombe arrived in Germany in 2002 as an asylum seeker. Germany actually rejected Rwanda's calls for his extradition, fearing that as a Hutu he would not face a fair trial if he were to return to Rwanda. But his trial in Germany, which began in 2010, was not without its own complications, not least because Germany's High Court was not experienced in this type of international criminal law. 118 witnesses testified, some from Rwanda, some flying over to Germany, and as well criminal investigators from Germany also flew over to Rwanda. So it was a lengthy process, but the verdict that was announced today certainly carries with it the message that Germany is not a haven for perpetrators of such crimes.
Jessica Saltz there for us from Berlin. Now, at least 2 people have been killed and dozens injured in clashes in Guinea's capital. After a week without power, tensions boiled over on Tuesday as protesters took to the streets demanding that authorities do more to get services back up and running. Many have accused the government of turning a blind eye to the difficulties caused by the power cuts.
Hundreds of people have descended onto the streets to denounce the power cuts in Conakry that have plunged the city into the dark for 3 months now. Police and youths confront one another. A police vehicle surrounded by demonstrators has crushed a demonstrator. A policeman was then killed. 2 are confirmed dead, 30 wounded. Eyewitnesses and protesters are extremely angry.
How many months have we been without electricity? We're tired of being in the dark.
We've had no power for 4 months. We're tired. We ask Alpha Condé for help. Our kids who go to school can't revise for their exams. They cannot refuse. The authorities haven't kept their promise to fix the power breakdown. Yesterday, feeling the mounting anger, the governor of Conakry warned demonstrators, who he suspects are being manipulated by the opposition.
We are going to give orders to the police force. At the least public disorder, people will be arrested and put on trial. Playtime is over.
About 15 districts of the capital are suffering power cuts. The inhabitants of Conakry are denouncing the leadership's contemptuous attitude, ignoring their exasperation.
Now, a ceasefire between South Sudanese rebel fighters and the government is in tatters after insurgents launched a major attack against the key oil town of Malakal. The military admits that rebels backing former Vice President Riek Machar now control parts of the town. Fighting continues and thousands of civilians sheltering in UN bases have been cut off by ongoing gunfire. It's the heaviest fighting since the truce was signed on January 23rd. Conflict first erupted in Juba in December before spreading across the country and escalating into inter-ethnic battling. 2 powerful Libyan militia gave lawmakers an ultimatum to step down by Tuesday evening or face kidnap. Parliament responded by denouncing the move as an attempted coup. Its term expired on February 7th. But members voted to extend it with plans to hold new elections in the spring. Now, that sparked daily demonstrations demanding its dissolution. France 24's Maureen Casales is in Tripoli. She brings us more.
the ultimatum is over yet, but there's been no fighting reported so far. The situation remains unclear in Tripoli, and loud explosions have been heard regularly but for the last hours, but it's not unusual in Tripoli. No extra checkpoints have been reported either at strategic locations, yet most roads remain empty. So most people really here wonder what would happen tonight if anything happens and how the situation will evolve.
Now, former revolutionary militia still hold a lot of sway in the country. Who exactly are these groups behind today's ultimatum?
Well, one has to remember first that for the last 10 days, several announcements have been made, one after the other, from different groups, but who share a common anger at the General National Congress and have been calling for its removal. A 2-day statement has been made by members of two of the most important militias in Zintan, west of Tripoli. They denounce the fact that the parliament has extended its mandate over the 7th of February and are asking it to leave the power. They accuse the Muslim Brothers and extremist groups of being, I quote, a disease, and to be with the Congress responsible for the situation in which Libya is in today. Those men claim to be the true revolutionaries and condemn the regular attacks against the security apparatus, army and police. A colonel from Zintan, who I was talking to earlier, accused the Muslim Brotherhood and Islamists in general of having a hidden agenda and wanting to seize power like they did or try to do in Egypt and Tunisia. This statement shows one more time that armed groups are willing to play a role in the new transition phase. Libyans are about to elect 60 members on Thursday, 60 members who will draft the new constitution. The statement that was made today is not against this election, but still it gives an idea of the general environment in which this election will be held.
Frans van Kat's Marine Casales there for us from Tripoli. We can't do it alone, says Chad's President Idriss Déby's called on the UN to commit more troops to the Central African Republic in order to rein in escalating violence there. Currently, French and African troops are on the ground trying to subdue Christian militia and former SEKOU rebels whose takeover last year sparked the country's current crisis. The EU has pledged another 1,000 troops, but Déby wants the UN to launch a fully fledged mission. Speaking of Frans van Kat earlier, the UN's humanitarian chief acknowledged the need for more resources in the country.
We are in the midst of talks now about how to convert what you have now into a peacekeeping operation in the next few months. We have to work with our colleagues from the African Union, from the regional bodies. They've been doing an extremely good job here. Without the French forces, the situation would not have stabilized. We're all very thankful to the European Union countries that are going to be sending additional troops, but we are all agreed we need to do more, and we need to do more now.
Now, the chaos has left thousands of homes and landmarks in Central African Republic at risk of looting or destruction. Cameroonian Samuel Fosso is one of Africa's foremost photographers and had his house in Bangui ransacked earlier this month. Luckily, all was not lost, as Nicolas Chemin found out.
This house in Bangui belongs to one of Africa's most important living photographers, Samuel Fosso. Earlier this month, it was ransacked. We meet Fosso in Paris. He fled here a few days before his home was looted.
They only left what they didn't understand, like my photographs, my negatives. It wasn't important for them.
Fortunately, photojournalist Jérôme Delay was in Bangui covering the violence. He recognized the photos and negatives lying in front of a house, and with Human Rights Watch, he collected them and gave them this week to Fosso.
The children that day apparently said, "Look, a white man is looting."
Fosso has only just got the pictures back. He has ambivalent feelings.
I'm happy to get them back. But at the same time, I'm sad because some are damaged, even burnt. But that's part of my story now.
Fosso broke into the art world at the biennial exhibition in Bamako in 1994. His self-portraits are now worth thousands of euros and can be seen at the Centre Pompidou or the MoMA in New York. His agent Jean-Marc Patras remains optimistic despite the chaos in the Central African Republic.
I'm convinced that Samuel's work will still be celebrated once we're dead. After these recent events, Samuel is not just an artist, but also a public figure. He acts as a conscience for our time.
Fosso is also hopeful. He's a Christian who lives in the heart of Miskin, a Muslim neighborhood in Bangui.
I hope it will still be possible for Christians and Muslims to live together in harmony again. That is my wish.
Samuel Fosso now hopes to return to Bangui as soon as possible to continue his self-portraits in a more serene atmosphere.
Well, that wraps up African News for me. I'll be back though with more tomorrow. Take care.
Tech24. New technology, the latest innovation and its impact on a digital society.
Tech24, your high-tech rendezvous here on France 24 and France24.com.